Hey, and welcome back to the number one podcast in the world, the Cellarcast, episode 97. Oh, we're getting so close. We're getting so close. Recording this a little late because I had a very busy Sunday, and I didn't have time to sit down and honestly just wait for that. This podcast takes approximately 4 hours to get completely out the door, to do the whole thing. About half of that is just recording it, and the other half is exporting it. It's exporting is the biggest bottleneck for me right now. I'm looking at upgrading my graphics card sometime soon. I'd like to do it so that I can. Prox turned me on to so-called hardware rendering, which apparently is significantly faster, where you can offload a lot of the work of rendering a video to the GPU. Hardware encoding, that's what it's called. To the actual, graphics card component on your PC, which apparently speeds it up a lot, which would be great for me, because the most annoying part of doing this podcast is waiting for it to render. Because I just have to wait, and I can't really use my PC for other stuff during then, because I just kind of want to go. You're I just kind of want to step away and not take up resources by doing other stuff. So I was busy with I think I can talk about at least kind of what it is, but I'm technically under NDA. I've been doing a lot of focus testing things recently, just to scrounge together a little bit of spending money. And I've been doing this one with a company who does video game play testing, not QA testing, but literally focus group. Hey, come in and play a game, and then fill out a survey, and we'll talk about it, and that kind of thing. And I had my second appointment with them. It's technically contract work. I had my second appointment with them last night, and it went pretty good. I can't talk about it, the things that happened specifically, or definitely nothing about the actual games that I saw, but it's a decent way to make a little bit of spending money. And when I got home, I was that was at 7 p.m. and I had to leave for the train at 5. And then I spent the first part of the day making a second. That's what I did. I made a video on the second channel of reading the Big Fish Mom reviews, which you can go check that out on the Cellar Plus R. Speaking of the Big Fish video, so that was so here's the story behind why that video came to be. You might remember, if you were listening to this podcast a couple weeks back, me talking about Big Fish when I was talking about Back at the Barnyard, or just Barnyard, the movie. And when I decided that it was I wanted to make a clip out of that part of the podcast, and I made a thumbnail for the clip that was so good that I couldn't. I was I can't spend this on a clip. I can't put this on a clip. So I have to make a main channel video out of it. So I put the Cellar logo in the corner, and I just had that on my desktop for the last few weeks while I've been working on this video. Usually I like the clips channel thumbnails to be a little more just I'm just having fun, messing around. Sometimes I make something that looks cool. This one was it was so perfect, because I was okay, I'm gonna have the logo in the middle, okay, and I kind of want because it's about memories, right? I was talking about nostalgic memories we had of Big Fish games, so maybe a little vignette, a little shadow vignette on the corner. And I was okay, it's a little I need something in the back, I need something behind the Big Fish logo. I could have just put a colored background or something like that, because otherwise by default it's just going to be solid black. But I was like, oh, let me do something a little more interesting. So I just grabbed a screenshot of the website of bigfish.com, like the homepage, or the homepage for the game store, and did a little, I forget what the effect is called. It's like, what is it called in GIMP? It's in like distorts. I think it's polar coordinates or spherize or one of those that basically just turns the, this square image into like a circle and just warps it a bunch. And then I put it in the back. I think I messed with the colors and contrast and all that. And then I put it behind and I looked at it and I was like, oh, it looks like an eye. It looks just like an eye. Like the Big Fish logo is the iris. And then the vignette forms the shape of the eye. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. This is like a main channel. This is like a main channel worthy thumbnail. And that is the reason I don't even remember what I was gonna make, what my plan was, but I was like, okay, now I have to make a video on it because I can't make a thumbnail this cool and not make a video for it. So I just kind of threw together a new one in like 5 minutes, or probably less than that for the actual clip. Which you can really tell. I think I just took like a picture of a little like kitschy kind of dog, and then the Big Fish logo. Just whatever, throw it out there. Keep the cool thumbnail. I don't know if anyone else thinks that's a cool thumbnail, but I thought it was really really neat. And it was a total accident, the things you just stumble upon messing around with trying to make a little design. That was an interesting video. It was an interesting video to go and explore, because it's basically like the same kind of I guess emotional arc that I describe in the video, which is I really went in and kind of almost wanted it to be like bad, or like or just soulless nonsense that you just like whatever, just cranked out drivel. And then they were fine, and that was kind of interesting for me to like grapple with. Maybe not my games of choice all the time, but like not terrible. And it's like really interesting because it's this entire, usually when we think of casual games, we just think of like mobile games, we just think of phone games, but there's like this whole industry of like people who are into like casual games, who are not, they're like on PCs and things like that. They're not going to get it right. Isn't that interesting, right? They're more PC gamers. That's actually really funny. I didn't even think about that until right now. Usually you would think like, oh, the PC gamer leans a little more hardcore, but there's like this sweet spot where it's like these moms, right? And they own a computer because, like, you got to own a computer, in this day and age. Or a laptop or something like that. But they're not, like, into games enough to buy, like, a console, like a dedicated console. And most console games don't really appeal to them, probably. But they, there is, like, this whole market of casual PC games that they're like right there for. It's actually really funny to think about it. Like, obviously these games are not like pushing the hardware to the limits and stuff like that. Usually like hardcore PC games are when we associate like hardcore PC gaming, it's usually because of that. Because like, oh well, PC gamers tend to be like, oh, I'm gonna upgrade to have like the cutting edge specs to like get the best looking the graphics possible out of my machine, that consoles get left behind after like a year or two kind of thing. I'm still in my brain warm-up phase, can you tell? But that is actually a really funny observation that like, yeah, there's this little pocket, this little space of people who are so casual that they don't own a console, but they do own a PC for other stuff, and you can market casual games to them. That's actually really funny. Yeah, I have not gone back and rewatched the Big Fish video. I need some time, like every time I upload a video. I need some time, like between it, because I'm so obviously making it. I'm literally seeing like every frame of the video before I put it out. So like I am way more familiar with it than anyone. I am the brain that is making the decisions for like everything that happens, for every single choice in the video. So I get kind of desensitized to it, and it takes a while for me to actually. I need some distance between me and the video before I can watch it again with something closer to like how you guys see it, which is like just a regular audience member. Like I'm too close to it, and I need to get away. So I haven't checked it out yet. I'll watch them sometimes, like after I put them up, just to make sure like I didn't make any mistakes, right? Not this time. I'm actually really surprised. I finished that like Friday night. I got home from Kat's place, and usually I'm really tired, and I just go lie down. But for some reason, I had that fire. I had that grind set in me, and I pushed through and I finished it. Just like the last couple minutes where we get I did the art history lesson. That was kind of the point that I was like, the work session beforehand, I was like, okay, this is like a whole thing. I'm gonna call it here before I get into it. So I edited pretty much the whole art, the whole like last 4 or 5 minutes of that video. I edited in like one sitting. Yeah, I'm glad that people enjoyed it. I don't know. I guess I got a much warmer reaction to it than I expected. Sometimes I put a video out and I'm like, is this really like interesting enough for people? I guess so. I guess maybe for some people at least. Anyway, I'm gonna move on. I've been rambling on for long enough about nothing in particular. Quickly, we're gonna go. Well, maybe not quickly. We're gonna go through the comment review, baby. So, we have a question this week. Comes to us from Ryan, who, by the way, tipped me off on Prox's stream to a listing. Okay, real quick. Ryan tipped me off to a listing on eBay of Monster Bass. For Monster Bass, a complete version with the manual. And I bought it on the spot because I got that spending money now. It was like $10. And it came in a couple days earlier than I was expecting. Because if you recall from my video on Monster Bass, the game never explains the goddamn fight controls to you. The fight part of the game, like the reeling in. Like the casting controls are easy enough to figure out, but the actual fighting controls are really weird, and I had to figure it out on my own. So like, and I couldn't find the manual anywhere. I couldn't find it anywhere online, and he was telling me that he couldn't find any either in that stream chat. And then he goes, "Oh wait, actually there's an eBay listing." So I bought it. It came in. I looked up the manual. It's not fucking in there. The manual for Monster Bass is like shockingly sparse. Like it's like so I uploaded a complete scan of it to archive.org, which you can I made a tweet about it, so you can check it out there. Of just a PDF of it. Did some archiving work of my own, and yeah, it's counting the front and back cover. It's about, I think, 14, 15 pages. And if you take like out, that stuff and the completely useless notes section of just like a blank page they put at the end, it's more like 10 pages, and most of it is spent on screenshots of like the game and the bait, and not even like Nothing actually useful. Just, hey, here's the things in the game, and oh yeah, I guess there's like a list of like all the different objectives for each level, but that the objective of every round of the games, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I was like, what the they still didn't explain it. Still did not explain it. So yeah, anyway, Ryan says, thank you to that one. He explained, let's see. the Frasier reference from that Lil Wayne line. That it's Joe Frazier, the famous boxer, which I had I've heard of Joe Frazier, but it's not a reference I recognized immediately. He says, I can go off on the rise and rise again and fall again of SpongeBob, but I'll spare you the details. The movie is the peak of the franchise and will forever mark the end, quote unquote, because season 4 had some classic holdover episodes of an era. I kind of want to make a YouTube video marking the parallels between the quality shifts between SpongeBob and The Simpsons. Huh, interesting. SpongeBob speedran the golden age into the decline that Simpsons fans observed, but also a more modern rise in quality due to some experimentation at the cost of alienating the middle era fans. And then he continues, I have a funny story with Holes. I watched the movie as a young kid and thought it was cool, but didn't retain much. A few years later, I was reading the book and didn't realize until about halfway through the book that it was the same story as the movie. That is pretty funny. That's never. I feel like I've heard of people having similar experiences. That's never happened to me, personally. But that is what is that thing? This is that thing I remember. Have I had anything like that? Maybe. I remember one time talking to a guy who watched Pan's Labyrinth on a plane. But he completely thought of it as something completely different. And he was describing some imagery from it. I'm like, wait, isn't that's from Pan's Labyrinth? And he's like, what? And I looked it up and I Mandela affected him. Okay, and then he just goes into a spoiler for JoJo Part 6. Come on, what the fuck? But yes, that is right. There's a character in Part 6 that has who is just, right, it was Donatello, whose backstory is just the exact same thing that happens to Stanley in Holes. Except, yeah, he goes into a life of crime. That's where he differs. And it makes sense that Araki took inspiration from Holes. Part 6 is a prison story about a mystically cursed bloodline. Yeah. I never thought about it like that. But that is kind of a funny... I wonder if he just, saw the movie and he was like, hey, this kind of reminds me of, a thing that I'm writing right now. Why don't I just... Araki's very, he just kind of writes by the seat of his pants. And I could totally see him oh, yeah, I had this idea for, this character. Why don't I just make his backstory like the guy from Holes? And now we get to the actual question. I've been reflecting on how sometimes I completely feel disinterested in something if someone does a shitty job pitching it to me. What's the worst pitch someone gave to you on a piece of media you might have, or later on, ended up liking? And this was an interesting one. It's a good question, and I don't know if I have a great answer for it, because people don't usually, recommend stuff to me, weirdly enough. People will, recommend things for me to, make a video on, for instance. But in terms of, media, like a game or a show or an album or something, the only thing anyone really does is Prox tells me to listen to Typo Negative. Oh, dude, you love Typo Negative, dude. You like noise rock. You love them. And hey, I might. But for the most part, people aren't like, oh, you'd like this. I feel like I do that to other people. I give recommendations to people, but they don't really do the same to me. I don't know if that says something about me. But I do have some experience with public perceptions of things influencing, not something someone directly told me, like a friend or something, but just things I've heard about a game. I have what was it, I think two examples where something was not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be, or maybe that's even going a little too harsh. Excuse me. The first one, honestly, would actually be Quantum Conundrum. That was a game excuse me. Quantum Conundrum was a game where, like, most of what I heard about it, whenever people did talk about it, which is kind of rare, was that it was just like a worse version of Portal, or it was like Portal but not as charming. And I kind of, went in, and the reason I played Quantum Conundrum was because I kind of wanted to, I don't know, I'd never played it. I was so interested in it as a kid because I loved Portal, again, without playing Portal. And it was like this emotional thing that I wanted to complete. I wanted to play all the Portal games, and then I wanted to play Quantum Conundrum. Complete the games that I never actually played that I loved as a kid. And I was almost like, it was interesting when I think back on the first few hours of playing Quantum Conundrum, because I was a little dour on it. I'm like, it's just not as, and at the point where my opinion started shifting, I kind of started warming up to it. I think if I went back and replayed it, which I probably won't, because I never replay games. But if I did go back and replay it, I think I would probably like it. I think I would like it even more than I liked it the first time. And the point really is like where the game starts giving you 2 or 3 dimensions to start playing with. And that was when I started to kind of see, like, actually, this has some cool ideas going on. I think comparing it to Portal is, I mean, I get why. It's clearly like, okay, it's Kim Swift, lead gameplay designer on Portal. And that was where a lot of the interest was. And it's obviously kind of trying to do the same thing. Or a similar thing. A similar setup. Oh, you're a character. You're, the one person in this environment, in this kind of like facility or this setting. And there's a person talking to you and instructing you. And actually, no, Quantum Conundrum has Ike. So there is a different living being. But like, the more, like, is it as charming or witty as Portal? No, not really. I mean, but like, it just doesn't have, does it have to? I don't know. I think what it offers, what I ended up really liking about it was really the gameplay. I think the gameplay and the system it created, the system that they had created for puzzles, was really interesting and was really fun, and in some ways I think maybe more fun than Portal. Portal's like very tight and focused, and Portal feels very tight and focused. And Quantum Conundrum is a lot more like, it felt a little more kind of loose in like a good way. And the more that I got into it, and once they, I wish there was more. I kind of wish there was more to the game, actually, because like once you have like all 4 dimensions to work with and you're doing some like really interesting puzzle stuff, I'm like, this is a cool game. This is a fun game. And it's kind of a shame that most people write it off as just being like a worse version of Portal, because I don't know if that's entirely fair. Like, yeah, story-wise, I guess, like, I mean, it's not as, doesn't have like the super memorable characters. But I think gameplay-wise, it's got a lot going for it. Also, Kim Swift talked to me on Twitter when I asked her a question about it, and that's cool. She seems nice. I asked her, right? That was when if you remember, I asked her, like, hey, I'm playing Quantum Conundrum right now, and it seems like, I asked her, like, was Quantum Conundrum designed with, like, intended solutions in mind? Or were you always supposed to be able, or were there always puzzles? Were you always supposed to have like multiple ways of completing something? Because there were things where I played it and I was like, or I would complete a puzzle and I was like, I feel like that wasn't what I feel like I kind of cheated or did like not even cheat, but did like almost like a speed run tactic to get through. And she basically just said, it depends. It's a physics game. A lot of stuff can happen. And, and I think that's cool that you could design a system with mechanics that are like open enough that the player can just kind of accidentally sort of find a totally unique way to solve a puzzle. That's fun. I like it a lot. Yeah, I feel like if I played it again, I think I would like it even more. That's kind of my, remember how I talked about my gut instinct? With QC, I guess that's what we can call it, I walked away from it with like a slightly warm feeling towards it. Just a slight warm feeling to it, as opposed to, you know, something that I walk away with like, did I like that? Sort of thing. The other game, funny enough, was Paladins. I don't know if I've ever talked about Paladin. I have 135 hours in Paladins. There was like a little bit of time where it was kind of my main just like sit back and relax game. Because what was it? TF2 was like unplayable because of bots. And Paladins was free, and I didn't want to play Overwatch. And I was like, hey, why not? Let's check it out. I had heard cool things about it, right? I'd heard some people like the majority consensus was Paladins is an Overwatch. It's like a bargain bin Overwatch. And then but then I heard a few people were like, oh no, it's a cool game. And I was like, okay, fine, I guess I'll try it. And then I ended up playing it, and I don't know if I'd say I loved it, but I think it's better than most people will give it credit for. When people call it like an Overwatch ripoff, I think that's kind of selling it a little short, because again, it actually does have some unique ideas. I do have a bit of a history with high-res games, namely in that I played Smite, and Smite, how would I describe Smite? Smite is a MOBA where they were like, what if the thing we did different was to make the game worse? And that was their different idea. And then I put 200 hours into it, and I don't remember any of it. I never really jived. Well, okay, I tried to get into Smite's like third person behind the back perspective for a MOBA, and I just ended up, dude, actually, Smite made me go back like temporarily a couple of years ago. Smite temporarily like sparked me to go back to League of Legends, because I remember playing Smite and just getting frustrated with it, because I was like, I fucking hate that this game is behind the back because I can't see anything. Like, I'm playing a MOBA, like a strategy game practically, and I can't see half of what's going on around me. It's annoying. Like, I can never see what's going on. I just think the perspective sucks for playing a MOBA. And then like I went back to League, I'm like, yeah, I can actually see shit. It's top down. I can see things. And I'm sure some Smite player would be like, oh, you need the situational awareness. You need to be constantly whipping your mouse around to look 360 in every direction. I don't want to do that. I want to play a game. I want to see things. High res always comes in with like they're like the sprint mobile of genres. They come in, they do like the third option, and they're like, we've got something different going on. And with Paladins, it was like, oh, it's like, first you got TF2, and then there was Overwatch, and they were like, hey, Paladins, dude, Paladins. And Paladins' way of differentiating itself from its competitors, I think it was a lot better than Smite's, which is crazy, because I think Smite is doing better than Paladins. I don't know. I wouldn't know. Basically, yes. Okay, Paladins it's like a character-based... Well, actually, no. It's a little... It's like a weird hybrid of like a shooter and a MOBA. You pick one character. There's no character or class switching mid-game like you get with like TF2 or Overwatch. You pick one character. You have a couple different like loadouts of ways that you can basically build them with, what was it, cards, I think is what they're called. And the cards will basically be like, hey, so your character has like your basic attack and like 3 other things. And then you have like 4 abilities, basically. Not counting your ultimate? Yeah. You have like primary, secondary, and then like two active skills in your ultimate. And for everything that's not your ultimate, you basically get four different. They basically, it's like these cards where you have like four different or five different. I forget how many they give for each of them. Each one of those active skills, it's not your ultimate. I have to get through this fucking explanation. You can basically put a little bonus on it. So it'll be like, you throw down a little... I remember there's a character, you throw down a little smoke screen stealth area where you're stealthed while you're inside of it. And there's an option, basically like a perk, you can think of it. And it'll like heal yourself, and it'll heal friendly units while you're inside of that. And you can put multiple points into each one. You have like 15 points to spend, and you can like put multiple points in these different kinds of like bonuses and perks for each one of your abilities. And it's kind of neat. It actually lets you take one character and build them in multiple different ways. Like that character, I remember, I think, was her name Sky? I think was the name of the character. She's like an assassin, poison, stealth out, and then kill you kind of character. But you can actually play her as like a healer. Like that's interesting. That's a cool system. I'm sure that there's tons of things wrong, and that people who play paladins a bunch are gonna bitch and moan about like, and now it actually sucks because every competitive player hates their game. But like, I don't know. I had a good time with it, and it kind of surprised me. It was not nearly as much like, yeah, it's got capture the flag. Yeah, it's got some characters who are kind of derivative of characters from like Overwatch and stuff like that. But also, it's like, I don't know. The overall system is pretty neat, and I think that if, like, for instance, you like Overwatch, Paladin, and if you liked Overwatch and you just looked at Paladins, you're like, oh, that's just the game with like the rip-off Overwatch characters. That's just the rip-off gameplay. No. I would say, if anything, you could think of it as like, imagine taking Overwatch characters but putting them into like something more akin to a MOBA like system. And it's cool. For what it is, it's a lot cooler than I expected. Also, it has an Amelia Watson voice pack, which is pretty funny, which I do own. But you got it for free. I didn't buy it, but I have it. Yeah, that's my story about pitches that I did not agree. Worst pitch for something I ended up liking. Was there something else that I was thinking of? Oh yeah, Black Clover. I don't know if this counts as a pitch, because it wasn't like someone pitched it to. Maybe the opposite. I had, but I think it was a weird journey I had with Black Clover. If you don't know, Black Clover is like a anime, manga, shonen jump nonsense. And I watched the anime for it when it came out, like the first 3 episodes, and I was like, this sucks. This is awful. It's so boring. It's so boring. It's just like, I don't give a fuck about any of this. It was the most generic rip-off shonen, just garbage, and it was so I'm like, why the fuck is this popular? Like, oh my god, this just is so bad. And then I was talking to a friend. I was at like a Boy Scout meeting. I was chatting with a friend, and he goes, yeah, I've been reading the Black Clover manga. I really like it. I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Like that, I watched the anime. It's terrible. It sucks. And he was just insisting. He's like, no, the manga's way better. And he's like, no, I know it's like a meme. The manga's way better. And I'm like serious about that. Like go read the manga. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll take you up on that. And, cause what's it gonna, it's not hard to read like 10 chapters of a manga or 15 chapters of a manga. Just get, a feel for something, get a size up of it. And then I read it and I ended up reading like 50 chapters of it. I was like, wow, he was actually completely right. My first impression with the anime was, okay, Black Clover wasn't a bad story. It was just a terrible adaptation. I think someone broke it down. So like most shonen anime, or most anime based on a manga, takes a roughly like 2-to-1 ratio when adapting the source material. So like 2 chapters of a manga make 1 episode of an anime. Black Clover had like 0.5 of a chapter made up an entire episode. And trust me, the chapters are not very dense. It's actually the opposite, which shocked me. Black Clover is a blazingly fast-paced series. It's just fight, new character, new different powers, different objective. We're just doing fights all the time. And all this stuff that's like derivative, like quote unquote ripoff that I was feeling. Here's the problem, okay? Right? Like, okay. Black Clover, apparently, so my friend told me this like later, that apparently the mangaka for Black Clover, it was like his first Shonen Jump manga. And he got advice from a friend who was like, hey, don't do anything crazy. You know, don't try to make like a super high concept, like really out there series. Just make something that's like, just take some tried and true, some proven story ideas, and just get your foot in the door so that people know you and that you have like a bit of a backlog. And then once you're a little more established, you can go, you know, a few years down the line, you can actually start making, you know, something really out there, something that you really want to make if you want to. So we said, okay. So we just grabbed a bunch of fucking story concepts from like Bleach and Naruto and One Piece and Dragon Ball and just smashed them all together and said, okay, the manga is basically just going to be a bunch of shit you know, and it's an excuse to have cool fight scenes with characters who are likable enough that you want to see them do things, and then it's just going to be fun. It's just straightforward, very shallow fun. I was like, wow, this is actually great. I had a really good time with the manga, at least of what I read. It was just a horrible first impression. Just like a terrible... Because the problem is when you... In the manga, I think there was like a YouTube video I watched forever ago. Totally paralleled my thoughts on it. And they had a really good way of putting it. That was like, the manga basically uses all of these tropes as shorthand to be like, okay, you get this big this group of like high level magic users. We're gonna devote like very little time to them because you know what Bleach is, you know what the Gotei 13 is. It's just them. It's just the Gotei 13. The rivalry between the main character and like his childhood friend / like they're like adoptive brothers or something. It's like you've seen, you know, Naruto and Sasuke. It's just, you know, we're not going to spend that much time on it. We're not going to act like the author does not act like this is groundbreaking. It's there to so that there's like a story for all these fights to revolve around. And the rest is just like, yeah, just enjoy the fights and the artwork and the action and the cool character designs and the cool powers. And when the anime adapts it so slowly, dude, I think the second episode of the anime is completely a flashback. It's 100% flashback. Already just destroy the pacing, right? And then I went and read the manga. The flashback is like 2 pages. I couldn't believe... I was like, are you kidding me? There's like a sequence. The entire 3rd episode is like them venturing from their little, you know, farming village to the capital city. And it takes the entire episode. Almost the entire... It takes like 75% of the episode for them to get there. Of like a 24-minute episode. I read the manga. It's 1 panel. It's 1 fucking panel. I couldn't... I was like, how? How are we this early? It's episode 3, and we're doing filler this hard. It's insane. They like ruined that story. That show could have been really good. Maybe it got better. Maybe they got better at adapting it later on. But holy shit, if you were interested in all in Black Clover, just go read the manga. Like, actually, the anime sucks. Terrible adaptation. I don't know if that counts as a pitch, but honestly, maybe it does, because most anime are honestly just advertisements for the manga they're based off of. So in a way, that's kind of like them trying to pitch the manga to you. That's why so many anime never get like second seasons and stuff like that. Hey, go read the manga if you want to find out what happens. Well, I did. I own all of Dead Man Wonderland now. I actually never watched the anime for Dead Man Wonderland. I just own the manga. Thought it was pretty good. Just took 13 volumes, but that was pretty good. Oh god, we gotta move on. Let's see. There's a story from a couple weeks ago that I forgot about. But okay. Hey, remember when Atari bought Night Dive, and I was like, guess what? They acquired a few weeks ago the entire libraries of Acclaim. Sorry, no, not Acclaim. Accolade. Different, very similar sounding names. Of Accolade and GT Interactive. They already own GTI. They put out this weird, right? Yeah, no, they own GTI. That's why Blood 2 happened. But they bought Accolade and they got Infogrames, which technically was like part. Dude, Atari has such a weird history with all the stuff they own. Which like Infogrames was Atari, and but then no, they bought it and they made it like a different. What a weird history of stuff. Also, a lot of the Micro Prose catalog. Not Star Control, because the rights for Star Control absolutely belong to Fred Ford and Paul Reich, which you might remember from my EA video. Yeah, so technically they put out what do you call it? An announcement that they own now over 100. They acquired over 100 PC and console titles from the 80s and 90s. Now, I approach this with caution, much like I did with the Night Dive thing, because Atari has always been run. Atari is and has always been run terribly, just terribly. You go and you read the history of Atari. I think I mentioned this, but when I talk about the Night Dive thing, but the history of Atari is fraught with what were you doing here? Why? What? They are in the position they're in today, I think, largely because they were just the first ones there. Kind of. They had Pong. They had Pong early enough, and people just remember the brand because it was the first one to get their foot in the door. Right? Kind of like how, people still reference MySpace. And they reference it as a joke, right? As a thing no one uses. But people still know it. If MySpace wanted to make a comeback, they could at least bank on nostalgia. Atari is the MySpace of gaming. Is that the podcast title? This acquisition is interesting because... Excuse me. Because there's kind of this are you actually not going to disappoint me? Well, I don't know if you could disappoint me, but are you not? I didn't have any expectations. Are you not going to do something that sucks? I could actually see the case for Atari wanting to transition into being a developer, and the Night Dive acquisition kind of goes hand in hand with this. Not trying to put out new stuff, or very rarely trying to put out new stuff, but instead going more for retro re-releases, the Atari, what was it, the Atari Classics 50 or something like that collection that they put out. Very cool collection of old games. Someone had a very good point about that the way that whole collection is presented as basically an interactive museum where you can actually sit and play the games. A virtual interactive museum is with like, you know, lots of info about the time and all that is a way better, is a really great idea for presenting those games rather than just, hey, here's the games, which, you know, anyone can just download off of like, you know, like they're all probably on archive, honestly. But like what it does is it actually presents them in context. So it's not really, it's a collection, but it's also like a history lesson for, you know, when these games came out, what was interesting about them, the impact they had on the market and the creators and things like that. Like Atari could actually turn the boat around, and they could transition into being a company that focuses more on putting out good preservations of games that like care about the history, almost like a, maybe in like the perfect world there would be like, you know, like a Criterion collection of video games kind of thing, and Atari could probably, maybe they could do something like that. That would be a great idea. Like, what if there was a Criterion collection for games? What would be in there? I think that would be fun. Maybe that would be a fun. I wonder if there is anything like that. Criterion collection video games. Do they actually? Oh, they actually do. Why are they all Burnout games? Why are they all Burnout games in Battlefield? Okay, this is not... Okay, the Google auto-generated list is not what it is, because Star Wars Battlefront 2 is on there. Oh, wait, did they mean the EA one or the original? Battlefield 2042. What is this? Airblade? No, it doesn't look like... yeah, the people have like... Yeah, people had put together like theory lists, but that would be cool. I hope that in some time we can actually see some form of that. And it's like, hey, these are like the essential games, you know? Maybe I could try to put together some kind of a list like that. It'd be a lot. I mean, it would be a lot of games, but yeah, so I look at this news with cautious optimism that, wait, maybe, and so there was this interesting interview that someone linked in like a review thread or something like that, or no, it was somewhere I found it. It was from Axios. It's with the Atari CEO, who's kind of a young-looking guy named Wade Rosen. And he basically said, it's in this weird format where it's all like, it's like bullet points. It's like a weird, very summary way of writing like an interview, but he said some stuff about like, hey, we're looking at like doing interesting, he calls it innovative genre-moving things, innovative in the innovative retro space is what he says. So like, okay, interesting. Whereas Atari's Atari put out that fucking, before he actually joined them, Atari tried to put out like a VCS, the VCS console. That's and he said of it, I think the big change there is to recognize, hey, what about this is unique and special? And the answer is not enough. So what do we do to fix that? And so they're like, oh, we need to actually make a product that's worth buying. And he says something interesting near the end. There's been a lot of disappointment with Atari for a long time, and me saying that things are going to be different isn't going to change that. I just ask that people just continue to watch what we do and just let the actions of the company in the coming years hopefully speak for themselves. Now, that could be all lip service, but it's at least kind of a much more hopeful impression than I would have expected. I got more of a hopeful impression out of that than I would have expected. So, in the best case scenario, yeah, I would love to be wrong. I'd love for Atari to actually turn out to be really cool, 50 years later. And I mean, God, hey, they own blood. I've had this fantasy of, like, buying all of the Atari token and using it to strong arm Atari into selling me the rights to Blood. If I sell them the Atari token back. Yeah, and then I would make it like I would do it like a, how would I do it? I wouldn't make Blood public domain. I'd just make it like an open license. Wait, that is public domain. I'd do something with it to just let people license it for cheap. Because I want more Blood games. Anyway, I think we're basically done with the news section. That's all I really want to talk about for news. Not a lot of news I care about, you know? We're on the eve. Oh my god, I totally forgot to write this thing in my notes. We're on the eve of a bunch of game releases. Before that, I want to talk about the Nickelodeon marathon that Kat and I did. So Kat did, because we're not watching them in release order. So, and we were just kind of picking them at random. So what Kat did to make it easier was she just went to like that website where you can just make like a random wheel. And we've just been spinning the wheel. So we landed... Well, actually, first we landed on the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles. And I just looked at her and I was like, I don't want to fucking watch the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles today. Maybe another day, but at that, for whatever reason, that day I was like, I'm just not in the mood. So we spun it again, and we landed on the Wild Thornberrys, which actually had a theatrical release. The Wild Thornberrys movie. It's the first movie that we've seen that was based off of, so Barnyard, well, we both already watched the movie, like, before, and we were familiar with the TV show, like, we kind of grew up with it. Same thing with SpongeBob. Any other like stuff based, unless I'm forgetting something. Those are Invader Zim. It's all stuff we've basically been familiar with. Neither of us really knew anything about the Wild Thornberrys besides Nigel Thornberry is like a meme. That's all I know about it. It was a little before my time, or both of our times, and it was not as popular as something like Rugrats, where I could at least... Oh, Rugrats! That was the other thing we watched. At least I did have some slight knowledge of... Both of us knew basically nothing about the Wild Thornberrys. And what's kind of funny is that the movie assumes you don't know anything about the Wild Thornberrys. Because it opens with a recap. Maybe that's how every episode opens or something. I don't know. But it basically opens with a recap of what the concept is. There's like a family, and they're in like, I guess they probably go to like lots of different places, but the movie's in Africa. And like the dad, he's this British guy, and he looks, man, if honestly a little racist against the British. Like, I love making fun of the British. Nigel Thornberry feels like a bit of a hate crime kind of character. Against them, like maybe not. Like, it's, you know, when when Aardman does it, when Aardman Animation does it, it's charming and endearing. When Klasky Chupo does it, a little weird dog, you know, kind of like it was like Brit face. Like blackface. What the fuck? Okay, anyway, and then this whole little family unit. You got the dad, and he has a nature show. The mom is like the cameraman. They have two daughters. The teenage one, who's like a very 90s 2000s idea of like a bratty teenager. And then the youngest daughter, Eliza, and Eliza saved it's like a buffalo or something. She like saved a buffalo from a trap, from like a bear trap, and it was actually the buffalo was actually a black guy. We've all made that mistake before, so I don't blame her. And he, in thanks, because he's a magical African man, gives her the power to talk to animals. but if she ever tells someone about her power, she loses it. So I'm like, okay, so I guess Wild Thornberrys is a show about and there's also they have like this fucking feral child they adopted, who just like, I think the joke with him is that there's the last, I guess, main character is this monkey called Darwin, and Eliza can talk to Darwin because of her power, and Darwin's like a very refined British kind of, this is not that kind of guy. And I think the joke is that like the human child is more wild animal than the monkey. Like I guess that's the joke. Cat pointed out something really funny, that Eliza and Darwin both have the same shaped head. They have this peanut shaped head. It's really funny. So that's the premise. That's what they give you up front. So I'm like, okay, I guess Wild Thornberry. I'm assuming the structure of a Wild Thornberrys episode is Eliza and her family are somewhere in, they're doing some in some remote area, and then a misadventure happens with an animal, and Eliza has to talk to the animals, and oh no, does she can't let anyone know about her power or anything, and then it all wraps up at the end and everything gets good. Everything is resolved. I'm assuming that's the structure of a Wild Thornberrys episode. Eliza has to do a thing with animals. I can actually imagine them probably like throwing in some educational stuff about different kinds of animals. Sure. The movie is pretty alright. What's really funny is that after it was over, Kat said she actually really liked it. Because again, Kat has no middle ground. And I said, and I have a huge middle ground, and I was like, that was all right. And she goes, yeah, that's what I thought you'd say. What's weird about the movie is that it doesn't feel like it's worth being a movie. It feels like a two-parter that has like an extra 20 minutes of filler thrown into the middle. It's kind of weird. So the basic premise of the movie is that Eliza, they're in Africa. She's playing with these like cheetah cubs, and before they know it, they kind of like they go a little too far out in their playing. They were warned not to go past a certain point. They go a little too far out. Poachers arrive. I thought it was kind of interesting that the movie had something as intense and like dark as poaching, like animal poaching as a central, as like the villain. Like pretty dark, pretty like unremorseful characters to have in like a movie for children. But hey, sure. So the cheetah gets kidnapped, and Eliza's all feeling bad. She tries. Okay, this is weird. So she tries to rescue the cheetah, and there's this helicopter these poachers are on. They're on like this ladder. They've got this like rope ladder that they're hanging off of. One of them's hanging off of, and she jumps onto it like an idiot and almost dies. Almost dies when she gets like cut. The ladder gets cut off. Her family's freaked the fuck out because and then the grandmother who's visiting, I thought this was kind of weird. Like, so she says that like your daughter should go to a boarding school, and even though both her parents are like they don't really want to, it feels a little forced, where it's like, why, like Nigel, he's like, no, it's fine. She just slipped up. She's just a kid. Like, he's actually pretty understanding of the situation, even though he's like kind of upset that she would put her life in danger. The mom's kind of the same way, but for some reason the grandmother is like, to send her to boarding school in England. And then she goes to boarding school. So, and then, Darwin followed her to boarding school. There's a monkey, and it's okay, here's the weird part. The entire boarding school thing is like filler. This is what I mean when I say there's like 20 to 30 minutes of filler in the film. It doesn't. So like the whole time we're just doing little misadventures in boarding school, and she goes there and she's really out of place, and she doesn't fit in with all the preppy boarding school girls and all that, and she's struggling. She feels bad. She likes being around animals. She likes being, out in nature and all that. And it's almost like a different episode. It feels like I feel like the whole poaching storyline is like a two-parter episode, and then the boarding school thing is like a separate episode. And then what's weird is, so like this whole time we're watching this, and I'm like, okay, the main plot is about getting this cheetah cub back from the poachers. That's in Africa. We're in England. We're pretty far away from where like the plot is, from where the plot is happening. So how is this gonna... I was waiting for like, they make a point to show that one of the poachers, you don't see any of their faces, but you see that they have like a knife on their boot that has like this very memorable like eagle shaped hilt. Like in the hilt had like a symbol of an eagle on it. And they make a point of that. And I was waiting for like she gets there and her roommate is some preppy girl who doesn't like her and all this, and they don't get along, and they're like Wednesday and Enid, if Wednesday could talk to... No, no, wait. Enid would be Eliza in this. Fuck Wednesday. Anyway, okay, I don't want to talk about Wednesday again. Where was I? I was waiting for like the roommate girl to be like the daughter of the poachers. Like that was going to be their family crest or something. And that's how we're going to wrap back or something like that. And then, no. Actually, that doesn't happen. What happens is Eliza convinces that preppy girl roommate to give her money to buy tickets to Africa. And then she just buys a flight to Africa. And then just goes back to the plot. It's really weird. We have this whole big deal about Eliza going to boarding school. And then it results in almost nothing. Like, almost nothing of value. I guess there is, like, kind of a plot thread of Eliza getting annoyed at Darwin because Darwin is like being a little monkey and she can't let anyone know that he's there, and he keeps causing problems. They end up starting this big... He shows up to like lunch in like the like the school uniform of the boarding school, but he's a monkey. And there's a big scene that gets started, and there's like a food fight, and I'm like, oh, okay. Where is this going? And then Eliza is gonna get like, wait, hang on, was she gonna get expelled? Wait, she was gonna get expelled. Why did it matter? Why did it matter that she had to get the flight? Anyway, it just, yeah, like it really, so they get back to Africa, right? Oh yeah, by the way, this is a full spoil. All these Nickelodeon segments have been full spoilers. They get back to Africa, and she's in like Nairobi, and she's taking the train out into the wild, and she basically just like walks back into the plot. She takes a plane and a train back into the plot. And it's so weird. It's like, why were we doing all that? The second part of the two-parter episode that this should have been was her encountering these two new characters at like the 40-minute mark of the movie. And then I was like, the longer you go on, I'm like, okay, they're the poachers, aren't they? It's like this couple, and there's like a rhino that's like, oh, I've been caught in a net. And Eliza helps, I've been shot. And Eliza goes and helps him. And then this new couple shows up, these two characters, and they're like, oh, we're helping the rhino. We're helping the rhino because it is injured. And I'm like, okay, who's the poachers gonna be? Or who are the poachers gonna be? Could it be perhaps the only two named new characters that they've introduced that are like at all in the location the plot is in? Like, we're really running out of options unless it's just going to be unless the poachers are just a couple randos. And then you know what it was? You know what the moment was? Eliza and Darwin are staying with them, like camping outside. And it's the fucking feral child runs away from home. They end up like finding, and he runs into Eliza and Darwin there. And he's going to climb into the van of these new people, right? They have a van. He's going to climb into the window, and there's a shot where it's on the other side of the window, and you just see him like reaching his arms through, and the guy pulls him back out. He goes, oh, you can't be getting in there and making a mess. And I'm like, they're the poachers. That shot is intentionally mysterious, and it's not showing us things. If it was just a shot of like him from the outside trying to jump in, or like if he did jump in, the fact that they made a point to show the guy pulling him out is like, okay, there's something suspicious in there. If he had like jumped in and then like jumped back out, it would have been like, I wouldn't have suspected it at all. But the fact that they don't let him in, I'm like, okay, that's them. And then, wow, guess what? It is them. Crazy. And then there's like a weirdly, really intense scene where Eliza like discovers that they're the poachers, and she discovers the jaguar cub, or the cheetah cub. And was I saying it was a jaguar? No, it was a cheetah. If I said jaguar earlier, it was a cheetah. And like the dude fucking holds her sister at like knife point, like he's gonna kill her because Eliza found out about the poachers' plans, right? She found out that they have this big plan to kill 1,000 elephants when they do like a migration thing, and like through a valley, and they're gonna harvest their tusks for ivory. So she finds out about this plan. And the guy's like, how did you find out about that? And he's like questioning her. And he's going to like kill her he's going to rip her throat open with a knife if she doesn't tell him how she got the information. And she literally like, oh, she's in this tough spot where she can't tell him or she's going to lose her powers. And then she cracks, and to save her sister, she goes, I can talk to animals. And I thought in my head, I was like, that also wouldn't work. That would also not, like, if you told him you could talk to animals, he would say you're lying to me, and then just fucking kill your sister. This actually doesn't, and I think the writers understood this because they were like, wait, it doesn't make any fucking sense for a character to believe her in this situation. So we're going to pull something out of our ass, and we're going to say that when Eliza loses her powers, it also triggers a gigantic windstorm that blows everyone away. So she basically, I guess, technically accomplished something with this thing that she had no idea. Like, it's so weird. It's like they were like, oh, it has to be, you know, it has to be, Eliza has to lose her powers at some point, or be in the situation where she has to tell someone that that she has these powers to talk to animals. But like, no one would fucking believe you if you were 12 years old and you told them you could talk to animals. I'd be like, go back to Tumblr, kid. Someone's outside. So like, it's like weirdly contrived. I don't know. And then she ends up saving the elephants without the help of her powers. And then everything ends up when the poachers get caught. Her sister becomes friends with a tribal African man named Boko. And I couldn't stop thinking about the Boko bar from Ultra Fight to Kyanta. He's got full Boko bar. Oh, and then Eliza gets her powers back, so it actually didn't matter at all. She gets her powers back because the buffalo black guy reappears, just kind of is there. He's like a magic shaman. He just kind of appears at the end of the movie and goes, Eliza, you are really cool, and you can talk to animals again now because I like you. But also, wait, hang on. So the new stipulation was that, because now her sister also knows, right? Her sister also knows because she was moaning and moping about how she can't talk to animals anymore. And her sister kind of takes a while to kind of understand that. But she eventually accepts it, surprisingly. And he's like, neither you nor your sister can tell anyone about your gift. And I'm like, didn't she also tell the poacher guy? Didn't she also tell that guy? Does he not count? Can he not? Whatever, man. It's like, was this the end of the... How many, hang on. Wild Thornberrys. Ending? I think it's the movie. Oh no, it was abruptly canceled. There is no official ending as it was abruptly canceled. Nice. Did this movie make its money back? Actually, it did. Oh shit. 25 million budget. Box office 60.7 million. Okay, not bad. Tim Curry's in this? Oh, isn't he the poacher guy? Let's see. What? Oh yeah, there's a lot of Paul Simon music. I was like, who's Paul Simon again? And Cal was like, he's the guy from oh my god. Oh my god, from fuck, what is this? Oh my god, I have to look this up now. Simon and Garfunkel, that's who they are, right? I was like Simon and Garfunkel because the only thing I was trying to remember Simon and Garfunkel, and I could only remember what I always confuse them with, which is Hall & Oates. I always confuse them with Hall & Oates. But no, the Simon and Garfunkel are the two music guys. Hall & Oates are them two broads. Two brads. There's a lot of Paul Simon music in this for some reason. Actually, no, there's only one. This is a weird soundtrack. Actually, now that I look at it. There's a Real Big Fish song in this? Monkey Man. Huh. Let's see. Father and Daughter by Paul Simon. There's like something featuring Dave Matthews. P. Diddy, Brandy, and Bow Wow. Peter Gabriel. Real Big Fish. Yaso Nadur? Is that how you pronounce that? Featuring Sting. Okay. The Baha Men. And it's actually not Who Let the Dogs Out. It's Accident, which is a song that doesn't exist because they don't have any other songs. Peter Gabriel featuring Shaggy. The Pretenders, he was it Hijas del Sol, and Wes. An odd mix of soundtrack. I guess a lot of like African artists, but like then Real Big Fish. What the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah, right. Yeah, it's pretty alright. I can't say that I hated it. Like, yeah, it's a lot of filler and stuff that doesn't amount to much and kind of weird plot contrivances, but I can't say that it was like terribly unenjoyable. It's fine. I can't. Do I want to go and now watch all the Wild Thornberrys? No. No, not really. I don't care to. In the same way that watching Invader Zim enter the Florpus. Did I talk about Invader? Oh, did I ever mention actually that was what kicked this off. That was what kicked this off. This whole marathon was we watched Enter the Florpus because I'd never seen it before, and Kat was really surprised because I was like, obviously I love Invader Zim, and she goes like, "Oh, we should watch it," and we did, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I don't know if I ever talked about it on this podcast, but if I did, you'll have to listen to me go through my thoughts about it again. It's really Enter the Florpus is like genuinely a really funny movie. Like, it made me realize, like, it sent me on a kick of watching old Invader Zim, not full episodes, but just like clips and stuff like that, and I was like, yeah, this show is pretty funny. Like, I liked this for a reason. Oftentimes I feel like it's unfair that oftentimes Invader Zim gets sort of stereotyped into being the lol random show, because okay, this is like the frustration is that the people who gave it the reputation for being the lol random show like didn't understand what actually makes Invader Zim funny. There is some lol random stuff with mainly like Gurr, but Gurr is like one character and he's kind of a counterbalance to the other characters in the show. Most of the humor in Invader Zim actually comes from the contrast between the different characters. That everyone is kind of stupid and a little off their rocker, and they kind of respond, but in different ways, and they like react to each other in funny ways. Like, Zim will say something that's like, oh, haha, funny, quirky, whatever, right? And then a character, it'll just cut to a shot of a character giving him like a dead stare. And they're like, uh-huh. Like, you're not, like, it's supposed to be dumb. but there's a lot of people who watched that and they said, oh, the funny part is that he said the funny random thing. And it's like, no, it's like that there's a 2-part joke to it. There's like a straight man and the funny man bit to a lot of Invader Zim humor. Or just like straight up like just like satire and stuff just being really fucked up and weird. Like, I still remember the fucking episode where they have to go door to door selling candy bars. But they're called, it's like a fundraiser for their school, but they're called poop bars, and they're made with like 60% sawdust. So they're like eating it and people are like trying to enjoy them, but they're like choking on sawdust. And then in that same episode, Miss Bitters, the teacher, is like telling them like what they're gonna get, like what the prize is for who can sell the most poop bars. And she pulls out a box of Band-Aids, and I don't know if this was like a, so she Miss Bitters always talks like this, but when she says, she's like, you'll get this box of, and then a completely different voice comes in and it's adhesive medical tape. And I think it might have to do with the fact that Band-Aid is actually like a name brand. And my theory on that has always been, every single time a character's like, they're going to say Band-Aid, just this voice cuts in. It's like the same voice clip every single time, and it goes, adhesive medical tape. It's like a fucking YouTube fucking shitpost. It's literally, it feels like a meme, but it's like that kind of a humor. I think it's because Band-Aid was a brand name, and my theory is that they wrote Band-Aid into the script, and then someone at Nickelodeon told them after they recorded that, wait, actually, that's a brand name, and we have to pay for the rights to it if we're going to use it. So as like instead of going back and redubbing it as a joke, I think what they did was just have someone record like this commercial voice of saying adhesive medical tape. And to this day, whenever I like get a Band-Aid, I always think of that adhesive medical tape, which I guess is the technical term for what a Band-Aid is. And then like the mascot for the poop bars is this guy is like this fucking, he's like a dog themed rapper who wears like a dog head. He's like a furry, but he's like, yo, 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 you kids better sell these poop bars. And then I think the way that Zim ends up selling, like, the way he tries to like get the edge and like win the fundraiser is he makes a device that like just like zaps like an image into someone's head. He basically like gives them a vision of a totalitarian world where it's basically like fucking hell, that the earth will basically turn into hell with like everyone being enslaved by aliens if they don't buy the poop bars, and just like traumatizes them into buying this product. It's like one episode. Every episode of this show is this weird fucking thing like that, and it's so goddamn funny. Enter the Florpus has, it definitely feels like it's a lot of the same people, or at least the same kind of like big creative voices. But you can kind of tell that it's been like, oh god, how long has it been? 20 years? Oh god, Invader Sim was like 2001. Yeah, you could tell it's been like 20 years, and Jonan Vasquez is like 45 now. Not in like a bad way, just it feels a little different. Like it feels like, hey, it's been 20 years. We've had some developments in like, you know, some creative developments in the way that, you know, I want to write things. You don't have the same, like the style has evolved a little bit, but you could tell it felt very Invader Zim, if that makes sense. The animation is like, it generally holds up. I love the original Invader Zim animation is so good. Part of the reason the show had to get canceled, like one of the contributing factors, was just like the budget, like the CG budget. Like the show used way more CG than other shows, and also had like double the amount of like, I remember this detail that Invader Zim always had double the amount of their storyboards were twice the size of any other show, like twice the length, because there was so much detail in like this that Jonan wanted, and like the specific movements of the characters and the like really fine details. And it has this really like charming, like thick outline, weird kind of very square, blocky geometry kind of characters, weird kind of spindly limbs, like really cool art style. And Enter the Florpus is like a little softer. The colors are a little lighter. I think it's Flash. It's pretty well done Flash, but there's some parts where you can see like the tweening, or it's like a little too smooth. It's fine. Like I don't mind it. And it basically also serves to be the end of the series. The effective finale of Invader Zim, which I appreciate. It's always been kind of frustrating that Invader Zim, for as great as it is, had just sort of like it got canceled like halfway into its second season, and it's like 1.5 seasons of a TV show. So like having like there's those like unfinished scripts or like unanimated scripts basically, and all that. So like there's stuff like that floating around. But having an actual definitive like finale to the series, And it's not like, it isn't like, and then everyone dies at the end, so we can never make more Invader Zim. It's not that, but it's, and it's not like, it's not even like, oh, characters finish their big goals. It's just kind of like the story just ends, but it feels nice. It's like a big story where you actually get to see some of the ideas that I think they wanted to do as the series progressed. It's yeah, it's good. I really enjoyed Enter the Florpus. It's like all the characters feel very like true to who they are. It has like a big scale. I mean, certain Invader Zim episodes could already have a pretty big, crazy, like things could get really out of hand in that show. But this at least felt like it raised the stakes to like a movie level in an appropriate way. I was consistently laughing. It's really funny. The whole voice cast returns. I mean, everyone who worked on that show fucking loved it. Everyone who worked on that show loved working with each other and with Jonan. So it makes sense that they got basically everyone to return. Yeah. If you liked Invader Zim, if you liked Invader Zim, I think and you haven't seen it, I would totally recommend it. It's a great send off for the show, and I'm content with it being the send off. I'm like, okay, it's like this chapter is closed. Also, if you haven't watched Invader Zim, go check it out. It's weirdly, is it an underrated or overrated show? I can't even tell. I feel like if your impression, we were talking about bad pitches before. If your impression of Invader Zim is that it's a bunch of lol random humor and it sucks, it's really not. It's a dark comedy. It's like really like super sarcastic and satirical, and has a lot of just it feels fucked up in a good way. It's like every character is an idiot pretty much. Every character in the show is an idiot except for Gaz, and that's kind of the joke, is that Gaz never rarely takes an active role in doing anything. It's like, yeah, every character is dumb and incompetent, but in their own way, and they're like interfering with each other. It's great. It's so good. Yeah. It's one of those shows that you're like, how the fuck did this get onto Nickelodeon? All right. I'll quickly run through a couple things, because I want to go eat dinner. I played the Street Fighter 6 demo. I got a chance to mess around with it a little bit. A couple things of note, because I have not been able to play the betas. So this is my first experience with the game. It took a little bit. I was just playing like the 1v1 versus a CPU. But I have to say, there was an adjustment period of acclimating to the weightiness of the game. It's a very weighty feeling game. A lot more than games that I'm used to, even SF5, to be honest. It's a heavy feeling game, and I think it comes down to the fact that most moves are not very plus. Most moves aren't plus at all. Most moves, I want to say startup frames on most things are general. I'd have to double check. I actually can't say if they're faster or slower. But this game is built a lot more around whiff punishing. Like, that's a really integral part of the game. So recovery frames are a lot, limbs, they stay out there for a little bit. It isn't like Street Fighter V where you stick out like a low medium kick and it's like there and gone in the blink of an eye. It's like, okay, there's a little bit of like waiting and recovery, and it's a little heavier feeling, and it took a little bit to get used to. But once I kind of messed around with Ryu and Luke, I was getting a feel for it. I think I could it didn't immediately like turn me off, which I was like, okay. I didn't think it would. The biggest hurdle was honestly just understanding the combo structure for this game, which I'll get into more once it actually comes out. Cause like, man, every Street Fighter game is so completely different. Like, I was playing some Third Strike the other day, and Third Strike rules. The combo structure in Third Strike compared to like SF4, which I was also playing a little bit of, not online, just versus CPU. Compared to SF5, it's like you could not. It's so different. It's so different. And I'm just not used to the 6 one yet. I see the building blocks when I watch videos. Like, I can see, like, okay, and it takes me a while to wrap my head around things like this. I see the building blocks of like special cancelable normals into like, maybe you get like 2 normals into a special, and then you can like, or actually what I've been seeing more of is like people get these extensions with like Drive Rush. People get these Drive Rush extensions where they do like normal, Drive Rush, normal, special, is a little more, certain aspects of it remind me a little bit more of like Third Strike, with the way where there's a lot of characters in Third Strike who have, like, Third Strike is not typically a very like combo heavy game. Like, combos are generally pretty slow. Not slow, sorry. Short. Until if you want a longer combo with most characters, you have to spend some meter. You usually get like, okay, you know, a normal into a special, maybe 2 normals into a special. Ooh. But if you do the EX version, you'll get like a juggle state or a wall bounce or something like that. And there's obviously some exceptions to this, characters who are a little more combo heavy, but a lot of characters in Third Strike are very like, okay, you want the longer combo, you're going to have to spend a little bit of bar for it. SF5 has like a little bit of that, has some of that, but combos are generally, it's not as universal as it is in Third Strike. I feel like combos are just kind of short unless you get, it's more about V-trigger extensions, like V-trigger activation extensions. I think are way more, that's like what it's a lot more, which I guess is still like spending a resource, right? But the fact that you can only pop V-trigger one time basically in a match, you're only really going to pop it one time, or per round at least. It gives it a very different like ebb and flow. Like, okay, you're going to get your big ass combo one time. And EX moves are generally just like the more damaging version of a combo. Let's see. 6 feels like it's kind of going a little more in that direction where it's like, okay, you're going to need to spend some kind of a resource or have someone got like reuse Hashogeki power-up thing. And that'll give you the ability to do combos that are longer than like just a couple moves, which I think is fine. It's just something I have to get used to. I went and jumped. The other problem with the demo for me is that I don't really care about Luke or Ryu gameplay. Excuse me, gameplay wise. So it was like, okay, I guess I can play Ryu, but I don't really care about playing Ryu. I think Luke is more fun than Ryu, to be honest. I like his wall bounce stuff more than Ryu's wall bounce stuff. I don't know if that makes sense. What I did make sure to check out, because I was really curious about this, was, actually a couple things. Number one, they brought back the feature from SF4 where you can choose the language dub you want on a per character basis. So you can have one character, their English voice, the other character in the Japanese voice. They might add more in the future, but like, awesome, great. I love that option. That's really cool. It was in 4, it was not in 5 for some reason. That's great. Just give me the option to do it per character. I wonder if that affects like World Tour mode. That would actually be cool. That would be really weird if someone just like randomly, everything's in English and then the one character you like more in Japanese just starts speaking Japanese to you. I tried out the World Tour mode. Annoyingly, it kind of resets, so it doesn't save any progress besides the character you created. So every time you quit out of it, you have to basically do the whole start of the world. You have to replay it every single time, which was annoying. For me specifically because also they don't let you change options while you're in World Tour mode for some reason. I was experiencing. Okay, so I guess take it step by step. Character creator, great, awesome. Really, one of the most in-depth character creators I've ever seen. The only one that might rival it would be Chimera Land. Fucking bringing Chimera Land back. I have not touched Chimera Land in months. Maybe I should. Maybe I should stream it. That would be really funny. Really like awesome developed out character creator. So I have my character ready to go for World Tour mode. Can't wait. Nothing but good things to say about that. Like the level of customization. Like if you want to make a cool looking character, you can. If you can, whatever kind of character you want to make, you basically can, as long as it's, I mean, like you can't add like wings and shit to your character because it's not like it. Street Fighter's kind of fantasy-ish, but it's not that fantasy-ish, But like you can make a weird fucking freak. You can make a normal looking person. You can make something, in between. You can make a cool guy. All sorts of different body types and shapes, and just so many different parameters that you can move around. Really fun. Like honestly, I could see someone picking up the game just for the character creator. Like if you like a cool character creator, and then what's great about this game is you can actually then take the character into a game, and it does shit. And the things that you pick, like there's actually changes to your hit boxes and your hurt boxes depending on like how long your limbs are and stuff, and it actually matters. Like actually having an appeal outside of just being a fighting game with mechanics. Wow, there's this funny character creator and there's like a big like single player mode that you can take them through. That's cool. Like that's nothing about that requires this to be a fighting game. And that's a good thing because it expands the audience. The World Tour mode itself, I do have to say, I was having some problems. What cut into my enjoyment of it was I was getting a lot of slowdown issues during World Tour fights. Not in the other mode, not in Battlegrounds. I had no performance issues. And I had the game on like max FPS, like 120. I had it running on pretty high settings. No issue during Battlegrounds, like the regular 1v1 mode. Going into World Tour, no slowdown in the actual like world, but when I got into fights, it did. I don't know if that's a problem on my end or a problem on the game's end of being like optimized weirdly. And I'd heard that people said, oh, it defaults to like what is it, resolution mode or performance mode rather than giving you like a 60 FPS a locked 60 FPS thing. So you got to go change that in the options, and I thought I had, but I was like, did I not? So I backed out, checked. Yeah, no, I did. I couldn't find the performance mode thing on PC. Maybe it's like a console thing. But yeah, no, I checked everything that could have been performance related, and I made sure that it was like, okay, no, I should be able to, no, it's not in performance mode. Or, it's not in like resolution. It's not prioritizing resolution. Still had slowdown. And and then I had to replay all that stuff. I had to replay like the first 20 minutes. Which was like kind of annoying to go through. Will it be fixed? I don't know. Do I have to upgrade my graphics card? I don't know. I was looking at people who might have had similar issues. And there were people who had pretty strong graphics cards who were still having the problem. So I don't know if this was a me issue or the game. Let me know. It could even be a problem with just the demo. Beats me. Of what I played of World Tour, what would I say about it? I actually like the mode a lot. I think it's cool. I only, because of the whole backing, because the fights weren't that great because of the slowdown, and I didn't play more than like 20-30 minutes of it, but what I did play, I liked, assuming that it was running in like a good frame rate. Because it was like consistent. It wasn't even like, oh, my frames are dropping when there's a big particle effect or something like that. Like consistent slowdown only in fights, like the same. Like I could adjust to it, but like I don't want to play a game running at like half speed. Like it's underwater. Really, really weird. Let's see, a couple things. Number one, I think it's really funny how Luke moves in that way that you only get in Japanese games. He has that like very like Super Sentai style of acting where he's like the way his head moves and the way he gesticulates and moves his arms around is like it's so over the top. You only get this in Japanese games. There's that great old like Pro ZD sketch of like the way that characters in Japanese games move drives me nuts. And it's like a clip from Final Fantasy X where Tidus like nods, but it's like the most over the top nod you could ever give. I was very impressed. So the world is cool. The world looks good. I was very impressed with the actual tech behind the automatic fights. Or not the automatic fights, what I call the fights in World Tour. I was actually really impressed with how seamless the transitions are. I imagine, like, honestly, it's probably the most impressive thing about the game to me right now is I really want to know how they developed. Like, I would love to hear a GDC talk from someone explaining how they got the system in place so that you can have an NPC fight and in basically any location, from what I can tell, in the overworld, and it just seamlessly transitions from like a 3D, like, a third-person environment to like a 2D fighting game stage, anywhere you are. And there's a little bit of like, okay, you might be doing it in a slightly different, there'll be a little bit of teleporting going on, but it's not jarring, it's not distracting, it's not like we're in a completely different place now. It's just like, okay, we're like 5 steps over, I guess, to make it a little easier for the game to make a little arena for us. Spectators, like NPCs who are walking by when the fight begins, will like be standing in the background and they're like watching the fight. Like people will actually gather while the fight's going on and they'll like cheer and stuff like that. And then after the fight is over, you just the camera just back to 3D. There's no loading screen, there's no transition like fade out or anything. It's just straight back to 3D exploration world tour in the city. And all those background NPCs just kind of go their separate ways. The character that you just beat is on the ground. They get up, and then they just kind of walk away. And it's so smooth. It's really like I'm really curious as to how they pulled that off from like a technical standpoint. It doesn't feel janky at all, which I was worried about. Like, are they really going to be able to do that? I was like, are they going to have like a couple, what would you call it? Like per location stages basically. And then as soon as you start a fight, it's just going to be at that like location, or like, how are they going to do it? I was expecting them to go for like a workaround way. Like, oh, hey, there's like a couple locations where you can have fights with enemies, and we have sort of like really simple little stages for that, to like represent those locations. Like, oh, it's in like what's like the opening here? It's like this little square with like a food cart and like benches and stuff. Oh, there's a stage there, and then it would just be fade to black. Oh, you're in that stage now. And it would just, the game would just have like a automatic thing that if you're in an area, it's that stage. No, it's on the spot. It's on the spot where you are. I imagine it had to be like the way that they had to design that had to have huge repercussions on like how they designed the world. Like that had to have been something they came up with really early on in the design process, because the whole way the world is designed has to accommodate being able to have a fight anywhere. I imagine there's probably locations that you can get to that didn't work for that are maybe a little more cramped, and that just won't have any, NPCs that you can fight. They just won't even allow it to happen. But really cool. I like it a lot, and I just kind of want to see more of it. I would like to play it in a regular game speed. The new character Bosch, who's kind of like the Gary Oak of the game, he's fine. He's just like a rival character. He has like an emotional outburst that's like it's the kind of like tone shift that you only get in Japanese games. You know what I mean? Where it's like, no, I must seek strength and it's like, okay, yeah, this isn't coming out of Europe. Kind of thing. We talked about people stereotyping Japanese games a few episodes ago, but like some stereotypes are based in reality, Not that it's a bad thing, it's just like, and the characters themselves are like, oh, okay, that was weird. Fucking alright. He just ran off. There's something kind of adorable about the game where it feels like your dad, who is trying to be like hip and cool with the kids, but he like, it's not an attempt to be hip and cool to appeal to the kids. It's like he thinks it's cool. Like he genuinely, in his own dad way, thinks that it's cool and is using slang like based and meme and stuff like that. Because like, and to the point where it's like, it doesn't feel like something that like a young person would make, but it feels like it's an older person who is so like, they come out and they're like, yo, you're looking drippy today. And it's so goofy that you can't help but be like, yeah, thank you. Not in like a condescending way, but like, I said that in a very condescending, sarcastic way. But like, or they come out and they're like, am I drippy right now? And you're like, yeah, you are. Fuck yeah, you are. Like, I'm just genuine. It's charming. It's charming. Like, you have to buy clothes, and this clothes store is called like Drippin' Fashion. I'm like, this is silly. That's funny. And then you buy like Bosch gets like a backwards baseball cap, and he calls it cringe. And I'm like, this is so funny. Like, this. They're like, oh, what do the kids talk about? What do the kids like? Lil Wayne, yeah. And like, I can't. It's such a Capcom thing. I can't help but love it in a completely like unproblematic, uncomplicated way. I love it. It genuinely feels like they're going for this whole street aesthetic. Is it something that's like super authentic? Probably not. But at the same time, it feels like it comes from someone who actually likes that and is trying to put that into their thing. And I like that a lot. I can't wait for this fucking game. I can't wait. A couple quick things. The Vampire Survivors DLC. It's good. That's all I have to say about it. It's the exact same length, or it's very similar size and scope to the previous one, which means like another roughly, I think I put another like 10 hours into it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like $2, $3, something like that for the DLC. Like, fuck yeah, like who cares? New characters. Oh, there's going to be a new animated series based off of the game, which I think is really funny. I'm going to make Kat watch it. Yeah, new characters, new weapons, 2 new stages. I just had that great experience. It's been a really nice, I guess, maybe this is just like becoming a tradition. Going through the new Vampire Survivors DLC and just finding all the new secrets and stuff. Because the whole game is just built around finding and unlocking secret stuff and exploring and finding things. And that process of like going through something for the first time and not knowing anything about it is really fun. It's a really fun process. Like when I found I don't even want to spoil it, but like, yeah, there's 2 levels that are added. There's 2 maps. There's 2 new maps. And the second one, you have to do something to get it. And it's really weird, and it works in a very like unique way. And there's like secrets and stuff that you can unlock in there, and it's really cool. Like, I had a great time. Yeah, good. Go play it. Can't wait for that animated series. And then finally, speaking of exploring stuff, I've dived into Prey from 2017, the 2017 Prey game. Does this have anything to do with, isn't there like an older Prey? Or is that even related? Hang on, Prey game. 2017 video game. I feel like there's 2 different Preys. Isn't there a different? Yeah, the 2006 one. Is this like the same? Is it like a remake? Prey was a commercial success. The rights to Prey passed on to Bethesda Softworks, who released an unrelated game of the same name. Oh, so they literally just made a game with the same name. Okay, so that's what it was. So there's an older Prey, and then Bethesda got the license and made it completely unrelated. Oh, you know what I bet it was? I bet Arcane was just making had a totally new game idea. And Bethesda was like, hey, we just got that new Prey game. Oh, it's like on a space station? Yeah, it's like that old Prey game. Let's call it Prey. Let's call it Prey so we can sell it with the name like it's a remake, even though it has nothing to do with it. Now, when you talk about Prey, most people assume you're just talking about the 2017 one. So it was on sale. Is it still on sale? It's probably not. But it was on sale for like, I think to get the base game and all the DLC was like $6. I was like, I've heard really good things about this. I'm gonna just snatch it. I'm gonna snatch the opportunity. This game fucking rules. It's really good. Let's see, how far am I into it? 8 hours, 8.3 hours. The first session I had, it was that first session, that great feeling. It was Saturday. I was done with the video. I woke up. I'm like, I've got no obligations. I got nothing I need to do. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start Prey. And I dumped like a 5-hour session that evening into it. And I just completely got wrapped into it. Wow. I think immersive sims are just kind of a very pro-Taigen genre. When I say, which I mean, they appeal to me very specifically. The more of them that I've played, the more I'm like, I just really like pretty much all of these. The reason for that, I think, is that immersive sims hit this very specific, or they commonly hit a very specific kind of game that just really, it hits me the right way. It hits that good spot for me, which is, I think I've talked about, my taste in games many times on this podcast, but like, I don't like. I have not traditionally had a good time with sandbox titles, with games where the goal is to just make your own fun, like Minecraft. Every couple months I go back to Minecraft, and then I play it for like 3 hours, and I realize why I drop Minecraft every time. I I'll have an itch, I'll scratch it, and then I'll realize why I don't care that much for Minecraft. Because, like, I just run into this thing where I'm like, I just don't know why I should care. Like, you put me in endless possibilities, in a game with endless possibilities, and I'm like, I have no desire to do anything. I have no... you have to be so, like, self-motivated to play those kinds of games and to enjoy them in a way that I'm just not. Just straight up, I'm just not with games. Like, I want to... give me a goal. My favorite kinds of games are the ones where I have a very clear goal I need to accomplish that the game outlines for me. I know exactly what I have to do, basically. But the path to get there is not a straight line, and it's not a clear path. You give me a clear goal and a big toolbox full of options, and then allow me to come up with a solution using those mechanics and those systems to get to the goal. And to me, that's like one of my favorite kinds of games. That's one of my favorite types of experiences. Because I look at games like Minecraft, I would say are more of like a creative experience. And immersive sims, games like Prey, games like Deus Ex. Honestly, a lot of games I love. I would describe, Blood like this. Excuse me. They're puzzle-solving exercises, which might not seem obvious at first. But like, you look at a combat encounter in Blood, or the best combat encounters in Blood, and what it really is, it's like, yeah, it's like, you're shooting and killing shit. And you're trying to figure out, but what it is it's a puzzle. It's like a jigsaw puzzle of violence. Like, the jigsaw, like putting the pieces together into the way that forms the picture is what's appealing about it. The picture is just something that you might like, right? With Blood, like, yeah, the violence is cool and all that, and it feels good, and the feedback is important, right? The feedback you get from the game is important to the experience. But like, the core of the game is that it's a puzzle-solving exercise. You're presented with a challenge, and you have all these tools, and there's no one straight answer. There's no one straight answer to solving the challenge. You have to figure it out with like all of these different tools that you have. And that's like, that like gets my brain going. I love it. Immersive sims are kind of based on that idea. They're kind of, it's one of the, there's not very many things you could say are like central, because immersive sim as a term really started with like Deus Ex, and because that game innovated in so many ways and put things together in such an innovative way that then all those like individual things that it did got like split apart into tons of other genres to the point where it doesn't feel like that unique anymore. Or it's like, it doesn't really, like, I can imagine someone playing Deus Ex and not really getting why it's so like revolutionary, because it's so influential, ironically. So a lot of the like key aspects of an immersive sim has been a little diluted because so many pieces of it have been taken and absorbed by other genres. So most people would be quick to call them something else, right? I think one of the core identifying things about an immersive sim is that it's that kind of it's the structure that I just went through. It gives you a goal and then lots of different systems and ways to approach the problem. Multiple ways to approach a single problem by giving you a world that is very it's where immersive sim comes from. That is has a high degree of interactivity. You can pick up and move like almost any object. You can hack into things. You can fight. You can use psychic powers. You could do whatever, immersive sims love to have all these different sorts of systems. And so it's kind of just built into the DNA of the genre. And I think that's what appeals so much about it. It appeals to me so much with them. What's the right way to say that? appeals so much to me. The thing about them that appeals so much to me. That's how I would say that. I haven't talked about Prey very much at all in this. I should just really go through it. Prey is very clearly a spiritual successor to System Shock, which is really funny because I'm going to have like a direct comparison by the end of the month with like the System Shock remake. Prey is a very direct spiritual successor. Not like a clone, not just trying to redo it, but certainly like, okay, you're on a space, like, okay, you're on a space station, there's like horror elements, there's monsters, there's people who have kind of mutated, sort of. There's stealth. System Shock 2 is more stealth than the original game, but like there's stealth, there's combat, there's hacking, there's like you're like kind of like a cyborg upgrade system, various different levels of the ship that you travel through, a lot of picking up notes and reading them to get information on like passwords and key codes and little environmental storytelling details. That same sort of like, I figured out the term with the Big Fish video where I call it the leapfrog style of like progression, where like you find something and then you got to go back and then you encounter something that you can't see, that you can't interact with. You move on. Oh, you find a thing. Oh, I can use it on that first thing. That kind of like leapfroggy back and forth sort of structure, which is also I'm a really big fan of. So I would say I don't want to spoil. The intro to the game is really cool. It's a really interesting concept. So I don't want to spoil that, but it is really cool. It's a great game to go in with very little knowledge of. But in order to, we're going to talk about pitches again. In order to pitch it, I'll describe, I think, enough to like at least pique your interest, hopefully. So the premise, so the basic cool thing about Prey is it's an immersive sim set on a derelict space station. And this space station has been overtaken by these things called, this form of alien life called the Typhons. The Typhons are like these weird shadow creatures. And I would say one of the most like core parts of the game is the type of Typhon called the Mimics. So the Mimics are these little kind of spider-like shadow monsters. And they're called mimics because they can turn into anything. They can literally turn into any object in the game. That is like, it's really clever actually, because you kind of associate a really common thing in this genre is to have every item, you can pick up every item. Every item has some kind of a name. And the mimics kind of play with that idea where, there's like 100 different kinds of objects in the game. And any single one of them could be a monster in disguise. So you walk into a room and there's a thing on the ground. There's like a box, and the box like jiggles a little bit. And you're like, oh, and you take out your fucking gun, you shoot it, and it explodes into a shadow spider monster. You're like, I fucking knew it. Or sometimes you just walk into a room and then suddenly, boom, something jumps out at you. Something jumps out at you, and you shoot it once, and then it skitters away like around a corner. You round the corner, and there's like a bunch of just objects littered about. You're like, any one of these could be a mimic, and you're looking around. The game does eventually give you a scanner thing that can identify mimics in disguise, but it doesn't give you that for, I haven't gotten them to like, I want to say the 6 or 7 hour mark. I've also been taking my time. reading stuff, so the time you get that might vary, but it gives you quite a few hours of game time before it gives you that. And yes, it is very useful, but it's also like it kind of creates like a new element of tension, because you'll walk into a new room, throw on your scope thing, and then just kind of be slowly pacing around looking to see if it catches any mimics or anything like that. Yeah, I don't know how else to describe it other than that it's really good. It's designed, it's paced in such a way where you are constantly going, and this is another thing with like a lot of, honestly, very like System Shocky. Like System Shock is a game that's really easy to just get lost in, like lose track of time while playing, because the objectives flow so naturally one into the next, that you just kind of like forget how much time has passed. It has a great, how would I describe it? It has a great movement system. So thankfully, there's a lot of like points where it could have been where things in this game could have been like feel bad systems, and they're not. Like there's a flashlight, and the flashlight has limited battery. Oh, but it recharges when you're not using it. And when you have it, you can have it on for like I think 2 minutes straight, something like that, maybe like a minute and a half before it runs out. And then you're going to be in the dark for a little bit, or you won't be able to use it. But you aren't usually in a situation where you need to use it for that long. It's like, okay, yeah, it's actually, it feels like very finely balanced to be like, okay, this is a limited resource that recharges, but it's not annoying, which I was very thankful for. The movement system is I like it a lot. You move pretty fast already, like your regular walking speed, and there's a sprint, and there's a slide. And then later on you get the ability to kind of like, you get a little propulsion thing that lets you sort of break your fall a little bit. You can extend a jump a wee bit. And it'll also like slow your momentum. But I love the system of like vaulting and like crawling, I guess. So if something is eye level, you can usually, if you can at least jump up, if you can get like a ledge to be eye level with your character, you can probably climb up onto it. And by the same token, if there's any kind of like gap that you could like reasonably squeeze through, like on the floor, you can probably squeeze under it. And you'll just like you'll just immediately go into like a crawling position. And it's really smooth and natural navigating around. It has a great feeling of being in a big room with lots of doors and details and things along the wall and pillars and stuff like that. And you're looking around and all these different ledges and surfaces, and you're like, can I get up there? And then you kind of like jump around a little bit, and you jump on this thing, and then you like, can I make that? And then you like sprint jump. Oh, I can make it. And then you end up finding this path that leads back around to like this other thing, and it's like, oh, there was something up here. This is so cool. Being rewarded for the little exploration things that most games don't reward you for. It's great finding little. One of my pet penchants is games where you wrap around to an area from before. You wrap around to an area from before after you've gone through like a big zone. And then you find like a little side path, and then it's like a shortcut. Finding a little shortcut back and watching the map like intersect and weave together. Oh, it's so good. This game has a lot of that. The combat, for what it's worth, also feels pretty decent. It feels pretty good. Shooting stuff has a good amount of feedback. Taking chunks out of enemies feels like you can do a reasonable amount of damage with the various different guns. You're definitely not supposed to be like a super super murdered kill man character. So like, you know, if you get thrown into a room with like 4 mimics, you might be kind of fucked. Unless, so like what I was doing is, so I was like, oh, and then I remember there's like a turret and the turrets will automatically shoot any aliens, any typhon matter that it detects. I was like, oh shit, wait, I'm gonna run out of this room and basically lead them back to the turret, and it'll just kill them for me. Like that type of stuff. That's so much fun. The combat, like the basic shooting, the movement, it feels good enough that when you combine it with the raw amount of just possibilities that the game offers you with like the different weapons, the using the environment, and all that, it feels pretty good. It's fun. Exploration is really rewarded. The story so far has been pretty interesting. Again, don't want to spoil too much, but a lot of recurring themes of like memory and losing memory, and, you know, kind of questioning reality. I'm really curious to know like where exactly it's gonna go, because right now it's like I feel like I basically understand what's going on in the plot, but I could totally see it throwing some insane twist, like curveball at me. I would totally recommend Prey. It's been great so far. Oh god, the music, dude. The biggest part, so this is a horror game, just straight up. This is a horror game. And so much of the horror just comes from the soundscape, dude. I am a person, your mileage may vary on this. Me personally, what freaks me out the most is actually like audio stuff. So like visuals can kind of like, you know, I can get jump scared and all that, but really it's audio cues and music and things like that. When I was playing Silent Hill, the visuals, like it would show a scary monster, but that would only be really freaky for like a few seconds, right? And then the kind of fear would wear off for the most part. But what got me just so tense was the sound, the music of just like the constant like there's industrial constant pounding industrial sounds. It just put me so on edge. Like really intense scary audio hits me a lot harder than visuals, which I think is good because the monsters in this game, like visually, are not like that scary. They're just kind of shadow monsters. But what gets me just is the sound effects, the sound cues, and the music. Like in like the these really like plucky, weird sounding synths. I don't know how to describe it. It just sounds intense, and it puts me on edge when an enemy spots you. Just boom, just like the sound cue when you're by one of the typhons, like especially like one of the humanoid ones, like the phantoms. Your character starts breathing heavily. Oh my god, that stresses me out so much. Your character starts breathing heavy. There's this sound cue that just like it just keeps like ramping up the longer that you're around them, and it's oh man, it just sometimes it's too much for me to handle. I just have to like pause. It genuinely scary. Some like kind of cheap jump scares. But the game at least has enough atmosphere to back it up. The atmosphere is wonderful and rich, and I think a big contributing factor to that is the fact that basically anything could be a monster, so you're always kind of on edge. I think that contributes to the jump scares. There's been a few where it's like, okay, did you really have to put one right there? Yeah, man, I am really enjoying this game. Like, I really want to plow through it and see what else it has to offer. I think that's all I want. Yeah, I would totally give it the thumbs up. If that sounds at all interesting to you, I would totally say to check it out. Yeah. I think I'm going to call it there. If you've been listening this far, thank you so much for listening to me ramble. If you have a question, please leave it down in the comments below, but please phrase it in the form of a question, because I'm not just going to read your thoughts out loud. Main channel video went up a few days ago. Side channel stuff, I have the Cellar Plus Art, the Clips channel. Pretty sure that's it. Oh, Patreon. Yeah, I gotta remember all the stuff I gotta plug. Yeah. Bye.